Alright, so sometimes people want to know why I won't vote Republican. Here we go.
Start solving problems.
Is it possible to get this deficit significantly reduced from $16 trillion without some tax increase?
It's possible, sure. You can begin to see a reduction in the deficit. You're not going to reduce the debt because the debt will grow $1 trillion next year, and $1 trillion after that, and $10 trillion in 10 years, and may even more if we can't grow the economy. So the job number one is to grow the economy.
So there you go, right there. That explains why I'm not a Republican today. His goal is to continue the size of government as it is, maybe chip away just a tiny bit, and then, quote, grow our way out of it. Which, in my mind, just means we're going to need inflation. We're going to need to eat away at that number, at that debt and that deficit. Now, there was a candidate who offered a plan which would have cut it, the actual entire debt, between $500 billion and maybe even close to $1 trillion in his first 4 years, and that would have been Ron Paul. Now, of course, Jeb Bush with his brother-like mannerisms. It's funny that they both speak the same. They do the same head nods and they do the same hand gestures. It's actually kind of scary. I guess they went to the same Illuminati school of preparedness. That's a joke. But that just right there explains it. They don't want to cut anything. And so I didn't watch the GOP convention. I mean, after the first day where they were dishonest and lied and cheated in order to disenfranchise Ron Paul delegates, I didn't want to watch the GOP. I didn't want to waste my time, really. But I did see some clips of it, and a lot of it was just glib. I mean, this year, it's almost worse than I've ever seen. Because this year, unlike perhaps any other year that I've ever seen, the Romney campaign is obsessed with manufacturing unity. Fake unity. We're all on the same page. We're all in agreement. They just keep repeating it, even though the question should be asked is, what are you in agreement about? Why is disagreement such a negative thing? Why do we have to all agree on everything? Why do all conservatives have to generate this facade? I mean, Romney had his sons, the Romney sons, what was it, 3, 4, 5 boys, young men sitting there being interviewed, and one of them said, we all agree on that. Like they're just fucking clones. It was really eerie, and yet it was representative of this entire campaign of Romney. Like they're just, everything is carbon copy of him, of positions. Everything's carbon copy of a particular message, and it's soulless, it's heartless, and it's specificless. It has no specifics. It has no substance. It's just jobs, more jobs, and more jobs. Grow this economy. But Jeb Bush here, anyways, that was my main point. Was Jeb Bush here really exemplified why I'm not a Republican and why I hope the GOP burns in hell. Maybe it'll one day change, but at this point, I cannot support the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and I will work to see their defeat in this upcoming election, because I firmly believe that the biggest problem in America are the two major parties. All the problems we have today, of course, stem from the policies that we get from the Democrats and the Republicans. All the wars we're in, policies from the Democrats and Republicans. The debt and the deficit, policies of the Democrats and Republicans. Everything that we see today are directly from the policies of these two parties. And I'll do whatever it is that I can to illustrate that to the American people watching my channel, people I even meet on the street. Even if I get in a fist fight, I don't care. It's worth it. Because in the end, I think that's ultimately what we need to see. And I guess that's kind of why I was so frustrated with the entire Ron Paul movement and why I stopped doing videos. What was the point? I knew he wasn't going to succeed. I knew he wasn't going to change this bastardized party. Any bastardized party. When you're dealing with people, and I said this the moment he decided to run as a Republican and he was in the debates, I said that when you're dealing with people who think that they can kill someone because someone in government thinks they might be a terrorist, you're automatically dealing with people who have a tyrannical mindset. So why wouldn't they cheat you? If in their mind it's justified to kill you because you side with, quote, the terrorists. So of course they're going to try to disenfranchise you. That's the least that they want to do to you. Especially if they think he's with the terrorists. I mean, you got to really kind of get into that deep mindset that they have, and it's depressing and it's dark, but there's no way you can succeed in that. And they're going to become tyrannical. The same moves that they make in government are the same moves that they're going to make within the party. And so they've now neutered basically any grassroots within the party. And so effectively what you have is a Romney establishment, Romney takeover of the GOP that's actually going to hurt not just Ron Paul, but the grassroots, Tea Party, non-moderate, non-progressive right movement is going to struggle to make, which I think ultimately, though, I guess for my cause, my beliefs, maybe that's ultimately a good thing. People will see reality as it really is.
3.5 to 4.
I can't listen to him. It's just going to make me sick. So I think ultimately going forward, all of us need to do what we can to destroy these two parties, however way we can do it. In fact, maybe that should be our goal. Not to defeat them, to destroy them, to take them down, to especially the Commission on Debates. That monopoly, the Commission on Debates, the major networks, and the Republican and Democratic parties, that's what really needs to be taken down. Somehow destroyed or weakened or altered. I had thought that maybe one thing the Liberty Movement should do is see about getting our own network television. I really don't know what goes into creating your own network, but we need our own national, we need our own ABC, CBS, or NBC. We need our own version of that. Liberty Broadcasting Network, LBC. And it's completely free from the monopoly of the mainstream media. It's completely separate. And there might be some similarities in the type of stories we cover, but you're also going to have a much more of a focus on the candidates you don't hear about, on the stories you don't hear about, the stuff that the mainstream media wouldn't touch. And perhaps it's both a combination of advertising and contributions from people who watch. And maybe some other stuff you could do. I don't always agree with a lot of the conspiracy stuff, but why is it so bad to have stuff like that aired? To let people think about it, to let people come to their own conclusions. Why is it such a negative? I'll tell you why it's a negative. Because of parties like this. They want to manufacture fake, glib unity for power, for control. Because they really think that their little 2 degrees north of the Democrats is going to be so much better than the Democrats 2 degrees south. Ooh, those huge changes that it's kind of ironic when you think about it. They have to magnify the micro differences between Republicans and Democrats. And then they have to gloss over the huge differences between Republicans and Republicans. And they get away with it. Now, of course, Republicans aren't unique to this. Democrats do that when they're fighting an incumbent. So it's the same thing, just in reverse. But this year, it's particularly noticeable. And it's particularly full of shit with the GOP convention. Nobody can say anything that's outside the realm, unless they're joking, of approved words. Everyone had to have their little speech approved. And therein lies the reality of it. I really do not think Romney's going to win this election. I hope he doesn't. I hope Obama doesn't win either. And neither one of them is good for this country. Neither one of them has the policies in place, or will have the policies in place, to truly change this trajectory of this country for the better. If we really want to create jobs, what's the best way to do that? To reduce taxes. Well, how do you reduce taxes when you have such a huge deficit? You have to cut spending. So it's all sort of a step-by-step approach. You cut spending enough that you can then reduce taxes dramatically, which will encourage more business investments and which will encourage more hiring. Get rid of capital gains tax, lower the income tax across the board for everyone. Maybe even eliminate the income tax for people in the lower, lower bottom, middle class, kind of in that area as much as you can. With an eye toward one day eliminating the income tax. There are ways out of this stuff, but if you notice, everything I'm talking about is not about helping government get bigger. It's not about helping government intervene in the Middle East. It's not about policing the world. It's not about creating better financial outcomes for particular groups of people. It's about letting people keep more of their money, cutting government spending in an effort to do that, and then letting the people in their own lives pay for their own health care or go find a better job. Find a job that's actually producing stuff. We probably have a lot of jobs that don't actually produce a lot of benefit because of government interference and influence and manipulation and coercion. But, well, you get the idea. I could ramble on this forever, and you're probably tired of seeing his face. We'll look over at the big gulp. So anyways, that's pretty much it. That there is a natural light, so it looks kind of weird on here. But that's it. See ya. Oh, there he is.